Hello, hi, Dr. Chloe. Hi, how are you doing? Okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today
Yeah,
to
thanks very
share
much
more
for
about
inviting
yourself
me.
and what you do. Excellent. So, brief introduction. So, Dr. Chloe Sharp, she is a product discovery and UX research consultant, and also author of best-selling book, which is the Make Products That Matter. So, over to you to explain a little bit more about yourself, an introduction to yourself and your story to start us off. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my career's been quite, I guess, serendipitous in that I've taken lots of opportunities which have come up. So it's gone in lots of different directions, but it's broadly been in teaching and research and writing grants and things. I've got the book here actually, if anyone
Oh, let's
hasn't
have a
seen it
look. Yeah,
yet. Yeah, I've written Make Products That Matter,
love it.
which brings together all my experiences and just kind of my journey really over about sort of 4 or 5 year period, which focused on product discovery and user research and market research in developing technology. Because I was kind of finding that research was something that was avoided or not really taken very seriously by startups and scale ups. But because I was able to write the grant and then be included in that to do the research, I think that once they started to talk to customers first before building things, they realised that it does have a lot of value and it's good to test ideas,
Mm.
through research or other ways. There's so many different ways to test business ideas.
Yeah,
Just
there is. Yeah.
out
Mm.
just before you build anything, because once you've built something and then you've got it out in the market, you're kind of relying on people to give feedback, from a customer sort of perspective, and it's kind of risky in a way because you're kind of relying on people's goodwill to give feedback, unless you kind of do
Mm.
very specific research. If you're kind of trying to figure out what the problem is, like high churn or um, just not making the sales, and there are a lot of symptoms of just not having a very good product. So doing the research at that point can highlight the problems, but if you can avoid that in the first place by kind of
It
figuring
makes
out
a lot better product,
doing-
doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
It's a really
exactly, much
important part of the process, isn't it, of developing a product. And so you said
yeah.
there's lots of different methods. What would you say your approach is to developing products and the sort of testing models that you would recommend? What would be the best ones, would you say?
It kind of depends on where you're at with your idea. So very, very early stage, it's good to do more qualitative research, which is interviews, focus groups, and maybe some ethnography, which is where you observe people and how they work, and even kind of talking to experts to figure out how an industry works. Because I work with startups and they've got amazing technical and sometimes industry knowledge, but they haven't worked in the role that their buyers are in, or even sometimes in the industry that their buyers are in. So it's really good just to almost fast track some of the learning by talking to prospective users and customers and experts, and then you get like a really good rounded view as to what you're getting into, really, as to what the procurement processes look like, what the systems are like, how people use things, what their workarounds are, what their challenges are, and then all of that up front. So then when you develop an idea and a solution, then it's got more of a chance to kind of fit the problem if you've done
There's the
that
right people then that are giving you those answers when you're getting your research done and gathering all the information. It's targeting the right people that know the
research.
industry and what does work best. Excellent,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I love expert interviews. Yeah, they're really
Yeah,
good.
that sounds really interesting. Yeah, and getting people to be honest as well. I bet that's a toughie, because people want honest feedback as well, don't they? They don't want just
Yeah,
someone to say what they want to hear. You want to know the problems as well, right? So you can improve on them.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and
Mm.
also people don't know what it is that they want. So if you're kind of asking more around the challenges in the area that you're looking at developing a product in, then you get to understand what the pain points are and what their workarounds are. So they're not you never really kind of ask, do you want this, or right at the very beginning when you're trying to work out the problem. It's more exploratory. But then, once
Understand
you've
their
had that
challenges.
chat, then you might
Mm.
say, oh, we've got an idea, and then maybe show them a mock-up, or, very early stage, or kind of I don't know, like a sketch or like an explainer video, and you might say, what do you think about that? And it's like a concept
Before you
testing.
even talk about the idea, it's finding that need, is it? Finding the problems first before you say,
Yes.
this, because your
Yeah.
idea may change depending on the answers.
Yeah, and also if you're kind of talking about your idea early on, then you might be causing a bit of bias as well, because you've
Right, yeah,
already opened it up as to what it is that you're trying to do.
No, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Then you're going back and forth changing it. So,
yeah.
okay. So from the very outset. So, and you do various different workshops as well. I mean, you're involved in so much, which is great. And you mentioned about the workshops that you're doing that are coming up. So, what are the importance of doing a workshop type training exercise, would you say?
The ones I've been involved in most recently have been the problem solution fit type exercises, or upskilling people how to do research. So I work with Mike Christensen, and because we're kind of a collective under Signal and Story. So we supported Protest Space on Friday last week, and we brought our product management and research experience to it to deep dive the problem and come up with some ideas for solutions. So we did a lot of work in the morning to frame the problem and to go into a lot of detail around the challenges. And then we created problem statements and how might we questions to then base the ideas on. So we were able to kind of bring that method to the workshop, and it worked really, really well. And it was just nice to see everyone just so engaged and things. I've also
And it was the
been...
hack day, was it? The hack
It
day
was a
that
hack
took place
day.
last. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
And kind of a similar idea, but made bespoke to female techpreneur on the accelerator there. So for that group, there were kind of startups, but early stage companies that were at the position where they could test their idea out early stage. So what I did there is a couple of workshops. So one on trying to figure out the problem for the problem solution fit, and also how to do research, because part of the criteria was that for the funding was that they had to go out and talk to, but they had a few funded places. So part of that criteria is that they had to go out and talk to customers. So I
It's quite
upskilled
scary,
them.
isn't it, for some people that have developed a product and then they think, oh gosh, but I haven't actually done the research beforehand and now I've got to come and do that as part of the process. So
Yeah, it can be a bit daunting to think, where do I start on all this stuff?
yeah,
Because you know that you should do it. And I've been on, other accelerators where, like, myself or, in other sort of guises, but they always say go and talk to your customers because it's important. But what they miss out really is kind of how do you do it? So that's where I feel I come in and can add value there, because then I can explain exactly
you know it's
how to
worked
do it.
before, don't you? Yeah, explain it, what other people have done, the structure, the method, how you go about it, and all
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. Yeah, is your expertise. No, that's great.
yeah.
Thank you. And the book that you've written, tell us a bit more about the book you have written as well, just to get more of an overview as to what people will find in that as a read. What's it all about?
So this book came about because it might sound a bit weird, but it really needed to be written, and it was kind of I thought, I'm going to go crazy if I don't write this book, because I
So
need to
much in there, you need
out
to
of my
get it
head.
in.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it was a long process. It took a couple of years really to kind of build up the content and start to like shape the chapters and ideas. But I did put it out like rough drafts, early drafts to people to see what they thought about it and stuff. But when I worked with Daniel Shahade from Studio Shahade, who designed the book, I'll just show you. Like his way of he did the front cover and like all the design in it and everything.
So it's nice and colourful as well. I like the colours in there.
Yeah,
Nice.
like he just did such a great job, and it was an absolute pleasure working with him. So it was really good at the early stage to kind of explain the book and the chapters and things to help him design it. And just to kind of help clarify what I was trying to do, I explained how research throughout the product development might work, but sort of in the context of a lemonade stand at that point. And then I took it a step further in the book to then talk more around the lemonade van. So this was a lady who had, amazing lemonade recipes from her grandmother, and she wanted to sell them. So she was just thinking, should I go to events? Could I deliver? Could I create an app? So it follows the story of this sort of fictional character who runs this lemonade van, and just how she would apply some of the things that we've spoken about in the book.
Yeah, you can apply that method to any kind of business, any kind of new product,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so right at the very beginning, it talks all about ideas, like where good ideas come from, then how to test ideas, but more from a qualitative research perspective, like interviews and focus groups. And then it kind of takes the reader through the different research methods that can be used as the product develops and the idea develops. Because as you're kind of going through, you might want to have like faster feedback. So you might want to put up a landing page with like a Facebook ad behind it, and really start to like get feedback quickly, or do usability testing to figure out how people are using something. But that comes, at certain points along the product development process. So it draws upon all the experience and all the research that I'd done. When I was at Snap Out, which was at Milton Keynes and sort of London-based like research consultancy, where we worked with like charities, startups, scale-ups, and SMEs, and the public sector. So we've got so much experience. So I just thought, I wish this book had been around when I started. So it was the book almost that I wrote for myself. If I was, coming into the sector for the first time, 5 years, 6, 7 years, for user research specifically. Beforehand, but I've been in research and been doing research for a really long time, so I could apply the methods that I'd learned, like in academia and social and evaluation research, and kind of applied all of that to like user research and market research and stuff. So it talks a little bit about the other types, but not too much. It explains a little bit about quantitative research as well, like surveys and how to approach analysing them, particularly to try and segment your market and things like that. So it covers a lot.
How many people would you say you'd have to have? Yeah, like to do a decent research study, like how many people is recommended to have involved to get those answers, would you say? Just out of interest, I wondered how many
it's a good question. It really kind of depends, to be honest. So when you're looking at your sample size, there's lots of different factors. Primarily you want to kind of narrow down exactly who you want to answer your survey, and then kind of figure out like how many people might kind of fit that description. So it might be like a role or an age group or something like that. And then you can use online calculators to figure out like the sample size and like the error rate and things that you're kind of willing to sort of accept and things. So
all the people that you're working with, and then realistically how many out of those you're going to get the information from. But as the more the merrier, I guess, is it? The more people the better. So
it might be hundreds, might be like 500, or if you've got a huge population, then it might be sort of 1,000, something like that. So it really depends on the group that you want to sample, to be honest, in terms of sample size. But with qualitative, it's also, it depends as well, because if you've just got a very early idea, I try and keep up to date as well with the research trends as much as possible. So I heard last week there was a talk about how many people to talk to about a very early stage idea, and they recommended about 20 just to chat, just to kind
not even that many. Okay, just to start you off.
A little bit of feedback. But then with qualitative research, if you narrow down your user groups, because you want to make sure that you're talking to quite a narrow group of people, which is a bit of a challenge in qualitative research, just in terms of mapping out your user groups and who you think they might be, because it's very assumption-led at the very beginning. But the idea is that if you create personas or user groups, that you'll be testing them and refining them as you go. So right at the beginning, if you've got a very clear user group, then you might make that part of your inclusion criteria. So you're very strict in saying, we'll only talk to people with these particular characteristics or motivations or pain points or job roles or whatever it might be. So then you might talk to around 5 just to start off with. So if you're starting to get like themes and hearing the same thing, and if you're not, you might bring it up to sort of 10 people. By sort of 10, you should really have started to hear similar things, the similar
Significant answers, yeah, that show that the answer is significantly this rather than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's called saturation. So when you reach that sort of saturation point, that's when you think, well, that's probably spoken to enough people there. So it really depends on the kind of topic that you're talking about. So yeah, there's kind of
Thank you. And if people have got an idea, do you find people like hold on to that idea and they're like too scared to share it with the world? Can that then limit them if they're not happy to share that idea to get the research done?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do see that quite a lot, but it's kind of, I guess there's a couple of sides to it. So if it is something that's very innovative, then you might want to be cautious with who you do talk to, in terms of you wouldn't want to go straight to like an enterprise organization or someone who you feel might copy it or take it. But yeah, so there is that risk is kind of felt. But at the same time, if you don't let people know about your idea, then you are kind of holding yourself back a little bit, because there might be opportunities that are being missed out on because no one knows that that's something that you want to do, or they can't make connections or help suggest people to collaborate with or anything like that, because you've kind of kept it to yourself. But with ideas, it's about what you do with it and how you execute that idea, which is really, really important. Because yesterday I was listening to a podcast and they just said something like, ideas without execution is just hallucination or imagination or something like that. So it's just like, you might just, if you've got an idea and you're not doing anything with it, then it's not really
going to go anywhere either, is it? If you don't get anyone's opinion on it or advice on how it could be improved, because products improve all the time, don't they? They're ever improving once you've created something. But trusting people, isn't it? And the right people, I guess, that you're going to share the idea with to get your research.
And also what I find interesting about ideas sort of from like a philosophical perspective is that like once they're out in the world, they might sort of take their own shape and they might evolve in a different way than you'd realize, but you only get the value of that if you've let it go and you've got feedback and things. Because Steve Jobs kind of spoke about it, but the way his analogy that he used was he like visited one of his neighbors who had like collected a few rocks, and then he put them into this sort of gadget where they just sort of turned and they sort of clashed against each other. But you kind of let it turn for about 24 hours. And then they came back in the morning and they were kind of smooth rocks. But the idea is like the rock might be your idea, but like all the friction and the like the clashing, but also it just kind of like is created into something else, which is like the end product, but it needs to go through that process of feedback, iteration, other people's input, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I think being open to feedback is an important part of product development and sort of more widely being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, people need to be doing that, don't they? Yeah, okay, good stuff. And you're thinking about setting up your own event possibly as well, so your own meetup in Milton Keynes. So I just wondered what the ideas are around the meetup that you're thinking about setting up.
Yeah, it's very early stage at the moment, but it will be something around product, I think, because I did have a meetup about, I was trying to think how many years ago. So I think it's going to feel like a long time, but it was around sort of 2018, 2019. Had the start the meetup, UXMK. So that was looking at like user experience and design thinking and how different organizations applied that. So we had speakers and like networking events and things. Unfortunately, we had to stop it because of COVID, because it was very difficult to extrapolate that sort of setup and the feel of it and things online. And we did try and sort of have like a skills breakfast or UXMK breakfast or something, but it just didn't really work out, unfortunately. So yeah, I'd like to do something similar, but around products. So yeah, yeah, there's kind of like an existing group which is behind like a bigger name, which I think they're thinking about setting something up. So maybe involved in that. I'm not really sure, or I might set something up on my own. But yeah, just
Really
watch this.
interesting. Yeah, we'll look out for it. Good stuff. Thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you. And as a woman in tech yourself, Chloe, would there be any advice that you could give to other women that want to get into technology type careers? What advice could you give, from your own experience?
So I think with women in tech, it's such an important topic, and particularly like women in leadership roles in tech. So I think thinking, I mean, there's lots of, in Milton Keynes, there's lots of different ways that women and also younger women can get involved in coding and tech skills. So there's different meetups and things. I can't remember the name of it, but there might be links that we can share after. There's, I think, a Microsoft AI meetup or something, Girls That Code. So I'm doing a really bad job at promoting them. But
That's right. Yeah, Georgina does the code for her, doesn't she? And then I think it's Stephanie that does the Microsoft. I haven't been to that one yet, the Microsoft one.
Yeah.
At Bletchley Park, but there seems to be quite a lot of support around. And Bucky, like you said, with the female
Yeah.
techpreneur, she encourages, doesn't she? And there's got a lot of support there. There's lots going on in Milton Keynes, isn't there? That's where we met, wasn't it? Celebrating Women in International Women's Day, and we were
So
both
I
kind of
think,
doing presentations, weren't we, on our businesses and what we do.
that's right. Yeah. So I think it's important to to improve your network if that's something that you're interested in, just to get a feel for what's around locally, but also you can, as a woman and also sort of younger women, access different groups like the Girls That Code and things, if you wanted to improve your skill set there. But also kind of thinking more broadly about the different skills and roles that are in technology. So like marketing and research, and so it's so broad that it's not just the tech skills, it's kind of everything else to kind of support it.
Lots of other opportunities as well, like you say, with the market research side of things, and all sorts, isn't there? So no, that's great, thank you. In life in general, sort of personally, professionally, are there any mottos that you tend sort of live by?
That's an interesting question. I think mine probably is something along the lines of like, you always have a choice. Like if you're not happy with something, that you've always got the choice to change it, even if it feels like you don't. I think that's if I'm not.
That's really good. I like that. I like that a lot. You have got a choice, haven't you? That's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. And is there anything in particular that you're working on at the moment to share, sort of maybe sort of current projects or what's coming up?
So I am just kind of developing a few things at the moment. So there's Sharp Insight, which is my consultancy. So through that I do research consultancy and coaching, but also from sort of building on Make Products That Matter, I'm looking to do more workshops and training sort of along the themes that are in the book, really, to help upskill more people and also apply product management frameworks and things to their business. I also work with agencies as well, so design or product agencies that might be looking to include research in their offering to clients, or maybe upskilling some of their team into how to use research in the development of their products, or if they wanted to kind of include that within their team, but with clients as well. So
clients as well as their own. But I found recently that there's software houses and digital agencies that are used to developing products for their clients, but actually they're now they're thinking, well, let's create a product ourselves. So
I do coaching and we have workshops, all that kind of thing, to help upskill agencies as well as founders, entrepreneurs, and also early stage product managers, designers, and researchers. We're going to be launching I think next week. But there's learning roadmaps as well that I've been working with Jordan Dalladay. So this is completely free to access. So it's under Creative Commons. So it's a series of canvases to take you from kind of hopes and fears. So kind of what you're hoping and worried about in terms of what you might want to focus on or kind of learn about, and then taking it through to like a roadmap really to help prioritize learning activities. So the idea behind it is to look at, I guess, question the current product roadmap methods, which are solution-led or kind of feature-led, and then it means that people are more inclined to build rather than what can we learn about XYZ. So just considering like, what do we actually know about it, what are our knowledge gaps, what do we need to learn, and then off the back of that.
It's totally free as well, which that's great. So people can have that's a free resource for people as well. Great.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like how you were saying about your, developing your own sort of frameworks and your own structure, and it's yeah, that's really interesting. And if people want to get in contact with yourself, what's the best way to find you online? Where do people go if they'd like to have a conversation with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, so Dr. Chloe Sharp, and also through my consultancy, which is sharp-insight.co.uk.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having a conversation today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And hopefully I will see you soon at an event in Milton Keynes. And
Yeah.
your meetup. Let me know when you start off your meetup.
Yeah, I will do. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Speak soon.
Yeah, see you
Bye.
later. Bye.